Welcome back to the European Challenger Series, where we're about to get into our final matchup of the evening. It's Schalke 04 versus Millenium. On the blue side to start us off, it's Schalke. In their top lane, Smitty J, their jungler Lulex. Selfie is their mid laner, Upset their AD carry, and their support is Van.
They've been looking very strong. Let's see where the challenger mainstays Millenium can do anything to topple them from the top. Because in the top lane for Millenium, it is Mimic. In the jungle, it is Steel. Mid lane is Pretty. AD carry is Pinoy, and their support is Norskeri.
Yeah, Schalke looking unquestionably the strongest team in the league at the moment. I think before the action that happened today, this was first versus second. Millenium would be very, very happy to be grouped in the same sort of area as Schalke at the moment.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, we're going to have to see how they can actually perform, because Schalke right now, last week we thought, oh, let's question some of Schalke. Their early game, it didn't look so great the week before, and then they come through in week 3 and actually look really dominant. So, I mean, Schalke have looked so good, winning games so quickly, that it's hard to deny how strong they look.
Yeah, and you have to put a lot of it on their support as well. Vander, the previous world semi-finalist, has played incredibly well. He's sitting at the KDA of 35.5. His kill participation is 70%. He has yet to die, so he's died twice in the entire league, and it has been over 74 minutes of in-game time between this today and his last death.
He's been letting people know as well. He was tweeting about smurfing in Challenger and all these kinds of things, but as much as the individual plays for Vander, who, you know, competed at Worlds and looked great, it's not only been about individual skill. A lot of it has come from draft as well. Seemingly the support staff, the coaches, veteran works with them. Like, their drafts have been solid. Swain pick into Camille last week worked very well for Schalke, and it wasn't just the lane matchup. They utilized it very well. Despite losing first blood over to that Camille, they just bounced back.
Although Fnatic have shown us that they can't really snowball even if they have a Camille.
That's
so
true.
it seems to be sort of a thorn in their side. On the other side of the rift, though, we've got Millenium. Last week, they looked okay against Kingwin. Didn't look dominant. First game was very strong. Second game, not so much.
It didn't look so good. And, you know, they couldn't really play around Kingwin's Gragas, which, ironically, we just saw Kingwin not be able to play around from that top lane. But Millenium have been fairly cookie-cutter on their drafts. They've had a lot of Lulu priority. There's been a lot of bans over Lulu as well. And honestly, now that we're on 7.3, that's kind of meta at the same time, which is weird. They were doing it before it was meta. My worry for Millenium, or maybe it's the other way around, my worry for Schalke is, this time last year, Millenium were on top of Challenger, undefeated, and we were saying they look so great, nobody's going to beat them, they're going to go to LCS, they look better than LCS teams. Well, Millenium lost and then didn't get through playoffs. Can Millenium do it to Schalke?
Possibly. Like, Schalke still, they're guaranteed playoffs at this point. They're the only team that can get to 9 points, so they are guaranteed that playoff point. But they still have to win out. They still have to win their games. They still have to be consistent. We are in to pick some bans, and Jace is the first ban here coming out from Schalke 04. Millenium, expect to see similar bans from them. Mengar, Camille, LeBlanc.
Not all three. We'll see the Varus come through as well as a high priority. With Jace already off the table, I wonder whether we'll see Shen priority taken away as well. We talked a little about the Lulu. Wouldn't be too surprised to see first rotation come out from Millenium.
Actually going to be a Graves ban here from Schalke. Obviously on blue side you have a little bit more flexibility as to what you ban out and how you decide to prioritize. Schalke have been one of the best teams for adapting to their enemy team as well, understanding exactly how to play around them. I'm a little bit surprised by the Graves because Mimic, Millenium haven't really played that aggressive jungler.
But is it an indicator that Lulex wants to play something like an Ivern that farms up alongside? Is that the indicator here? We haven't seen a lot of Ivern first pick, but it is a possibility. Whether it's first phase, I think, is the more likely threat. That's if they're going that way. Obviously, Graves has just been banned out in general from his strength of getting a kill and then taking towers from it.
I think Schalke are a lot harder to predict here than Millenium because they have such a wealth of champions that they can pick from. Millenium, if you were going to give them their perfect composition, it would probably be something like Shen. Oh, Varus is the final ban coming out here. Shen, Cassio mid lane, Caitlyn, Lulu their bot lane, and then any jungler that fits into that as well.
So Millenium likely ban Camille here, because you don't want Smitty J to have it. Where does that leave us? Jhin as first pick would be the most likely one.
However, Millenium won't mind that too much in all honesty. So it's going to be a Shen ban instead. And the question here for Schalke is, do they take the Camille or do they take the Jhin?
Or do you give over both after Millenium just banned the matchup against Camille? That's why there's a Shen ban right there, is because Millenium are anticipating that Schalke get the Jhin and give the Camille and pick the Swain into it or something like that.
The thing is,
would be the next one.
This totally changes Millenium's usual playstyle, because we see them play Caitlyn all the time. If you pick the Jhin instead of the Caitlyn, it's very different.
You're right, but I think this is Schalke on the next level of this. They're leaving Camille open because they played the Swain into it. That's one of those key picks that they played against it. This Shen ban theoretically doesn't do much specifically against Schalke, because if you do play Camille, that's what'll come out. Jhin has to be a priority here for Millenium if they want to play in the current meta right now. Kha'Zix, I don't know whether you had to pick it here. If you don't want to be forced into the Camille, then yes, pick the safe jungler.
I don't think Millenium care too much about the current meta. They've been playing Cassio, Caitlyn, Lulu a lot of the time, so I don't... As much as I agree with you that Jhin is priority in most people's comps, they picked Fiora, so... I mean, Fiora is known as a counter to Camille.
Yes.
So that's probably what they're saying, but Schalke don't really care. Like, they'll let Camille go all the way through.
But there's an easier solution to this.
The banning Camille.
No, it's you don't pick Fiora in Phase 1 if they don't pick Camille in Phase 1. You would pick it as the last pick. You could have taken something safe like the Jhin here if you wanted the straightforward draft. Now you've given away Ivan, Jhin, and potentially Lulu or Karma, something, you know, one of these big ticket picks for Schalke.
Or Rise for Selfie.
Or Rise, yeah. But Selfie's shown he's been very confident in a lot of matchups. He's played Katarina, he's played, you know, Kassadin. Cassiopeia. We've seen like everything from him.
So it's going to be the Tahm Kench lock in here. Keeps your Jhin a little bit safer from the Kha'Zix and the Fiora. Is something we've been seeing banned out on that second rotation. In all honesty, this draft is kind of just confused me slightly because of the weird priorities that we've seen. But neither of these teams have been known for being meta. Schalke can kind of win without meta. So.
This is a draft of people not wanting to pick Camille, but picking things so that if the enemy does pick... Okay.
This is AD carry.
Yes, it is.
This is AD carry.
Tell us why, Medic. We were talking about this earlier.
So I was watching the Challenge France games from the week. And in the semi-final, Millenium faced up against Gamers Origin. No relation to either of the two teams, by the way. And Pinoy played the Ziggs AD carry, and it worked out quite well for them with a Syndra mid. So Millenium here decide to pick up the Ziggs early on and take it into that AD carry role instead of going for the Caitlyn, who could have been sort of taken out a bit easier by the Jhin and the Tahm Kench. Gives them good pushing lane as well.
It does. The Talia being taken away, that was one of the picks that Selfie had. So this actually does play around this Ziggs in a weird roundabout way, in that you don't want Talia coming over to bot lane to push, to you know, make a play on bot and not allow Ziggs to push. So this is these roaming mid laners being taken away. We've already had LeBlanc off the board. There goes the Talia already.
Just this draft, man. The Fiora early pick is so odd. I want to see how Schalke decide to answer it. Like, already they've got the Tahm Kench, which works well into it. Ivan's fine into it as well.
We've seen a bunch of Fiora out of Mimic in days gone by, but don't first rotation it.
Well, there's the Rise ban as well. Schalke probably going to target out Karma here, in all honesty, take away, or Nami. We've seen a lot of Nami from Norscaran.
Yeah, we have. Just something that can facilitate this Ziggs, give it push on top of it, so that Karma would make sense. Unless they were looking for mid lane and banning away Syndra, if Selfie doesn't feel particularly comfortable just into that Syndra matchup.
I think Selfie will feel comfortable into most matchups at the moment. He's riding high. He's playing incredibly well. There's the Orianna ban, so just mitigating perhaps some of that later game coming out from Millenium. But now we will start to see this composition perhaps form a little bit more of a coherent structure.
Millenium are just like, well, they're on top of the table. Let's do something different.
Just pick Camille. Just pick Camille now. Support Camille.
Or mid lane Camille. If they play it.
If it's not a pretty champion. Style, no.
It is absolutely not a pretty champion. So if it actually gets picked up, I would be very surprised. There's the Karma for pushing alongside Ziggs. So Selfie, will it be the Syndra? Top lane into Fiora, we may see the Poppy or the Trundle.
Could be Renekton as well. Just go for the pure outplay potential in the top lane.
Could be Renekton.
The problem is here, like usually I can read teams pretty well. Like we've gone through most drafts today and been like, yeah, we can kind of expect what's going on. This draft, every pick has just been like, oh, like Ivan might be picked up. No, Ivan priority, obviously.
Of course you'd blind pick Fiora into the top lane and then pick Kha'Zix and then blind pick Kassadin. Okay, so based off this, you want a roaming mid laner. That's what they want to do to shut down the Ziggs. You've got a strong top lane already with Renekton. You've got Ivan who can play a supportive role, and theoretically there aren't many mid laners outside of Syndra that can actually dominate mid lane pre-6 against a Kassadin, unless you play an AD matchup, in which case that would do it.
Yeah, because of course Kassadin's passive gives you extra magic resist, which is the reason that we don't see many AP laners into it. Corki makes a lot of sense.
That'll
there's a lot of AD magic damage mixed in there as well to give you that mixed damage.
It does get converted, but it's okay. It's still ranged versus Kassadin pre-6, which is fine. Really, really interesting draft in this game. So SmittyJ should have the early game focus on top side. Lulex will have to concede some in the jungle. Mid lane will have to concede as well. And then we got this weird Ziggs dynamic in the bot lane where like Schalke can't really pressure out, can't push too heavily, but will have this really strong global presence with the Kassadin, with the Tahm Kench coming through from Schalke. This is a very unorthodox draft by both teams, and actually I'm looking forward to this game.
I'm really enjoying looking at the draft and trying to work it out, and I'm looking forward to the game. However, I'm worried that I'm going to get surprised more than excited at points. Just be like, what's happened here? Why has this happened? Sort of thing. So I think there's going to be a lot of macro play we need to discuss when we get into the game. I think the play styles from both the teams is going to be incredibly exciting as well, because Millenium have not played a composition like this before at the EUCS.
No,
they played Caitlyn, Nami, and they played Cassio. And why didn't they do that? Because that's all that my notes say over here.
No, because you had one note.
Guys.
You got the note that says they played Ziggs.
That's true.
That was the one you got.
Well, that is the important note. And the important thing for now is make sure you guys tweet at us with hashtag EUCS if you think Schalke 04 are going to take their 7th win of the European Challenger season. S04 win. And if you think Millenium are going to win, hashtag MIL win. S04, by the way, guys. Make sure it's a 0 rather than an O, as in the letter. But, yeah, so Schalke have a wealth of pools, as we can see here. They've gone for a lot of different things. Excited to see Lulex playing the Ivan. He's tended towards more aggressive matchups, like the Kha'Zix. Can still do a lot of work on this. We saw Broxer in week 1 showing us how Ivan can be an aggressive carry.
Can be aggressive, and we'll watch to see where that aggression comes from. Some interesting things to note. We've gone back in time. We got double TP. We see double TP from time to time. It's because it's a 1-3-1 setup. You've got Renekton wants to dominate on the side lane. You've got Kassadin, who will end up dominating on the other side lane. And then you've got good defensive capabilities out of Lulex, Upset, and Vanda. On the other side, Millenium, they've kind of got this pushing composition, sieging. We'll see how they can utilize it.
So there's a couple of interesting points that tie into these compositions as well. Both of these teams have a 100% first tower record across their first 6 games. And if you look at Millenium's composition, they push towers incredibly well, especially bot lane with the Ziggs. That's kind of what he came into meta to do. Alongside that, only once have Millenium ever been behind at the 10-minute mark, and only twice have Schalke ever been behind. And the reason that's important is it tends to show us who's going to win the game. Because if you're behind if you're ahead at the 10-minute mark, 70% of the time you go on to win the game, which is quite exciting in my opinion. And getting that first tower is vital to being ahead.
It is, unless you PSG, in which case...
I think that's why it's only 70%. It would be like 95% if PSG didn't exist.
I was going to say, if you took away the PSG games, you'd probably have like 90-95% on that one. But Schalke, they have been ending games very quickly, and that, I think, is the other key stat. That 28-minute average game time over 6 games so far. It's an impressive stat. They've been a level above the rest of the competition here in EUCS. We'll see whether Millenium give them a run for their money here in what is sure to be a very interesting game coming from this Champion Select.
I'm already enthralled by it. I want to talk about this top lane matchup because it's not one we see too commonly. Renekton has snuck back into some people's pocket picks, power picks into certain matchups. Why do you pick Renekton into Fiora, and why does it work so well?
So I can't guarantee that it will work so well, because there will become a point where Renekton cannot push against Fiora. However, for the laning phase, Renekton will be as strong as he always is. You get very good damage trades early on. Mimic, however, can trade back. SmittyJ, when he gets the the slice and dice and the Color Meek, gets all that damage out, you can trade early into this Fiora, force out the health potions, and you can see Renekton able to start longsword 3 pots. Fiora's gone for only 1 health potion, so it can out-sustain very effectively in the laning phase and make it hurt while doing it.
Continually trying to trade. The riposte does come out, and of course that can stop the Ruthless Predator stun. Smitty will be continually trying just to harass and get in there. Lulex spotting out Steel. A bit of push down for that root caller, but the Scuttle Crab does go in favor of Steel, and now Lulex perhaps caught out slightly. Steel decides he doesn't want to go too aggressive into the enemy jungle.
I wonder whether we'll see the tank build out of Smitty J that we've seen a few times, where you get him like Cleaver and all that kind of build. There was the old Renekton build where you go Blade of the Ruined King, and on your the W, you 2-hit them and take so much health off. I wonder what build we'll see out of Smitty J. Looking for the 1 versus 1 setup. He wants better laning trades the later we go.
But we know Smitty J is going to push up, and Steel realizes that. Tries to come in for a gank, is on a ward, and will get spotted out. All lanes actually push advantage you have to give across towards Millenium, which is something that Schalke especially have prioritized previously in their drafts. Only perhaps top lane is where Smitty J will be pushing in, but mid's going to get forced back by the Corki, and bot lane, Ziggs Karma, always going to force that wave up.
It will, but not in very early levels. You can see they're actually getting pushed in. For Pinoy, his damage is kind of low early on. Yes, Bouncing Bomb does damage to the majority of the wave, but then you're mana dependent. You don't have the ability to trade effectively. Ziggs' passive works very good for harassing in lane because of that short fuse, that additional damage. But you can see Upset, he started Boots 4 pots. It allows him to move in and out of trades very quickly and deny a lot of what Ziggs brings to the table bot lane.
Vander there as well on the Tahm Kench, going to be able to keep his AD carry safe at points. He's trying to dodge out the Mega Inferno Bomb with that Devour from time to time. Still trying to maintain his unkilled streak as well. It's now up to 79 minutes. Just going to continuously remind you.
You just got a stopwatch for the last
It's not that
3
difficult.
weeks.
It's 74 plus whatever's on the clock at the moment.
That maths will go awry if you keep trying to...
Are you going to test me at random time, Stress?
Maybe I'll be like, how long's it now?
As long as Vander doesn't die, we'll be fine. But both teams playing a relatively slow early laning phase. Expected to see Pretty perhaps slightly ahead in CS. He's not really managed it. Selfie was able to get back into lane with the Catalyst of the Aeons, so he'll be sustaining himself up with that mana and health you get back from the heal. And
it's actually difficult to deny Kassadin's laning phase. A lot of people used to say way before that Kassadin pre-6 was so easy to punish. That's where you had to beat the Kassadin. Well, after he got the adjustments and his shield changed around on a lot of things, it's actually difficult. Despite it being melee into range, he hits 6 very effectively if you just play smart. And from there, Riftwalk gives you the survivability in mid lane. So no surprise that Selfie isn't too far behind, is able to kind of sustain up with that Corrupting Potion and just farm easily under the first few tower shots.
Lulex and Steel are going to meet here. Steel jumps into the pit, smited away by Lulex, gets the root caller down as well, but here comes Pretty. Off towards the side, flash away by Lulex, but he's still going for it. Exhaust down onto the Ivan, one more auto is enough. Pretty gets the kill. Selfie now needs to retreat, does have Riftwalk, should be able to get himself away. He'll notice that Steel's getting a bit of invade down into the jungle, and Steel will decide against it.
Now, that was Lulex making a play on top side because top was pushing out, but mid wasn't. And they were a lot closer to mid, so Pretty could regroup alongside Steel and take the kill. That was just Lulex with mispositioning on the map, trying to go aggressive when he really shouldn't have.
And although the lane's pushing in the top side, no CS advantage taken here for Smitty J over Mimic. Mimic's half HP, but could just dodge in and out and get those minions underneath the tower. Won't be too worried about this at all.
Nope, not worried. Selfie is 2 versus 1, but knows with Riftwalk available. Kha'Zix, Corki, no crowd control, so not going to lock down a Kassadin. And that, honestly, looking down the line, is a major problem for Millenium. No heavy crowd control.
Satchel charge, man, it's so good.
If Ziggs is satchel charging Kassadin to start a fight, Ziggs is already dead.
That is true.
But that is going to be a problem for Millenium, is they have no real way of starting fights. They won't have control of both side lanes. Yes, Fiora will outscale, but Kassadin will be able to fight anybody the later this game goes.
I think also there's an interesting point about, we talked about Vander in picks and bans. Well, he's actually tends to be the support that buys his Sightstone the latest as well. I'd like to see if he gets it on this back. I assume he will on the Tarm, although he hasn't backed away yet. We'll just try and catch Pinoy out. He's the support that buys the Sightstone the latest. And as a team, Schalke 04 actually have some of the lowest wards per minute out of any team in the European Challenger Series. Now, I talked to a couple of people about this, and because they tend to get early game advantages, and because they push up, they don't need as many wards to cover the map because they can just cover the enemy's jungle, and they know they don't need wards on the rest of the map. So that explains that to some degree. But usually that's because they get ahead in the early game. Here, they're not getting ahead in the early game, so they need to adapt and make sure they are actually lighting up the map with those wards.
Also, there's an interesting thing with wards per minute where I almost feel like wards per minute should be wards per 6 minutes post 20.
Okay,
because if you only have 2 cycles... Okay, has he picked up Sightstone?
He has, yeah.
Good. If you only have 2 cycles of Baron and Baron control, because your average game time is 28 minutes, then teams that are playing 40, 45 minutes, yes, okay, you're dividing it by more minutes because it's wards per minute, but around Baron, there is so much of a collection of wards that you know, it's one of those stats that, yes, it kind of works out, but the same with damage per minute, where the later you go, generally the higher the base number before dividing it is. So.
Alongside that as well, teams against them tend to place less wards. So there's 25% less wards placed against them and 25% less wards killed against them as well, which means that the wards they put down stay for longer, meaning they don't have to place as many wards per minute.
Yeah, that is another factor that goes into it. Statistically. I mean, Schalke are basically statistically the best team. In Challenger.
They're 9 points counter that, considering no one can even match that. Mimic puts down the Grand Challenge. Smitty J's going to get the Ruthless Predator stun. Mimic tries to flash away. Smitty deciding he doesn't want to flash it.
And I like that he decided not to flash in. The problem is, he's now got people coming up through the river. He should be able to get out here. He can slice and dice his way out of this situation.
He could probably just take this fight, in all honesty. Ruthless Predator, Cull the Meek, slice and dice back in, and Steel works out. He's in a bad spot. TP comes in from Selfie. They're going to try and chase Steel down, but instead they might turn their attentions over to the tower. Selfie's continuing to chase down here. Steel does get taken out. Selfie gets the kill.
Really important kill that it goes on to Selfie here. He expended so much for it because he knows what he can do with that first kill on Kassadin. Now he'll look to snowball this game effectively, and it's difficult once Kassadin gets 2, 3 kills in a game to shut him out because you can't lock him down, you can't out-damage him. There's not a lot to do.
Yeah, Smitty didn't really take any damage in the trade with Mimic. Now Pretty's going to get forced back by Selfie once again. So Smitty, it was really overextension by Steel trying to go for the kill. Smitty realized in a heartbeat that he could turn it back around, and now Schalke continue to push in this bottom wave. Cleared out with the Mega Inferno bomb, but still Millenium getting pushed back.
And importantly...
Curtain Call. Norscarin takes 1, takes 2, takes 3, takes 4. Heal keeps him alive.
But now they're pushing onto the tower with the next wave of minions. Pinoy had to use his ultimate to clear it out. This Ziggs has not been able to push out effectively in the bottom lane. This is where Smitty wishes he has his Tiamat already. At any point here, if he had Tiamat, he kills Mimic because he can animation cancel and get the extra damage down and keep himself out alive. And the same happens, actually, when Steel comes up to the top lane. If he'd have had any ability.
I'm not sure what Steel was thinking here, in all honesty.
The empowered autos at any point would have killed Steel. So Smitty J is really hurting from that. Actually goes back after this fight and buys it straight away. And Selfie realizes he doesn't really have time to wait around, doesn't want Lulex to get the kill. So flashes over, gets it. Rod of Ages completed. Good spot to be in.
Schalke, still only 300 gold ahead, though, do have the redemption on Lulex. Tiamat and the Ninja Tabi in that top lane that you were talking about. Rod of Ages now finished on Selfie. Yumu's on towards Upset. They're starting to hit this first round of items. However, so are Millenium. Trinity Force on towards Pretty, and Pinoy has his Morello Nomicon.
Worrying, though, that Pinoy and Norscarin haven't had much presence in that bottom lane. They've been clearing very effectively, but of course, they need more than just the 2 of them in the bottom lane. You can't kill Jhin and Tahm Kench. But Steel has been so focused on the top side in this game because this Renekton's causing a problem that Pinoy and Norscarin haven't had any help.
Pinoy has been a focus of the Millenium team, and Norscarin as well. They tend to be the lane that gets ahead, that wins out. Smitty J trading in towards Mimic. The Dominus is just too darn dominant for Mimic. He's going to have to just catch himself away. Once again, no flash in by Smitty J.
Yeah.
Lulex caught out. Redemption comes down, trying to heal himself up. Has the blast going there. Steel caught out by Selfie. Has the flash. Daisy looking for the knock-up. Steel trying to avoid a sold around. Mega Inferno Bomb comes down, but it's not enough as they take out Steel. But he's going to continue to chase in. But here's the Abyssal Voyage. Vander onto Pretty. Smitty J gets the stun. Selfie gets the kill. 2-0-1 on the Cass.
Schalke again just accentuating this lead, bringing them to the fight with the Abyssal Voyage. Now they're going to look for mid. Pinoy will be able to clear it out easily. Again, from this Renekton, they are opening up such a pressure lead on this top side that Mimic is forced back away from the tower again. It opens up the fight. Selfie and Lulex are able to catch out a couple of members of Millenium crossing through the jungle, and it just continues to go in the favor of Schalke.
That it does, and it looked like such a slow start for them, but they managed to extend their lead. 1,300 now, the difference. Lulex has been impactful in all of the kills as well. Let's have a look at this once again. Starts off with Lulex catching Steel out.
Yeah, catches Steel. Steel was heading top to try and help out in the engage between Smitty J and Mimic. Ends up on the receiving end of a lot of damage here. As Selfie tries to chase him down. This one actually goes over to Lulex. Just probably going to anger Selfie a little bit just because he wants to snowball as heavy as possible. But thankfully this one goes to the Kassadin. They give it over, make sure that they end up getting him kills. Oh, Norscarin instead.
Norscarin caught out, tries to flash away, might survive. Curtain Call comes down, pretty forced away as well. Steel takes up a lot of the shots. For this. He's deciding against it. They're looking for the turret rather than for the dive for the kills. They decide against it. We'll just back away. We'll once again just go back to their lanes and farm up some CS, get themselves further in the lead.
Yeah, they're going to push around mid. Smitty J and Mimic is still trading up in the top lane again. Mimic put a bit of damage down, but it wasn't much. But now you can see Mimic has been able to push back out. Now that he's building towards that Ravenous Hydra, he's pushing the lane, getting further and further towards the point where Fiora can actually contend in this matchup. It does take a lot longer than the point we're at now. Smitty J can still trade on an all-in very effectively, and it's not enough to win the matchup for Fiora yet.
Millenium are known as slow starters, though. They tend to wait out the game a little bit and then really wait for their composition to come online before they extend their gold lead and put their foot down on the accelerator. It's going to be a difficult one to do against Schalke, who have been consistent throughout all portions of the game. Looks like Millenium are going to set up around the Mountain Drake. Neither team taking it yet, but Millenium do have good isolation damage, of course, with the Kha'Zix if they want to go for that objective.
They also have Abyssal Voyage up now as well, so if, or at least Schalke do, if you'll excuse me, to try and punish any dragon attempts, any fights that start between Millenium and Schalke around that dragon. You can see what Millenium have done here is they're trying to restrict Selfie's movements on the map here. By putting Ziggs in the mid lane, you are normally guaranteeing that you can push out. Pinoy doesn't want to have to use his ult yet to push that wave out, but it does leave a little bit of an opening bot side for Schalke to make a play here.
And they're pushing forward. There's the Mega Inferno Bomb just to clear out the wave. Pretty dodges out the Deadly Flourish as well. Devour on towards Lulex will spit him out back towards the river.
And the theory on this one is, as always with any roaming mid laner, if you push them in, get the minion wave under their tower, they lose tower health and potentially lose the tower alongside that. But Schalke go for the second attempt now onto this tower, should get it. But they've run out of minions actually. Yeah. Again, the wave clear comes through from Corki, from Karma, and it's going to have to be the next minion wave that they get it.
Eventually they will get that tower down. It will be the first tower of the game and ends Millenium's 100% record for those first turrets. Schalke will continue to maintain theirs, unsurprisingly.
I was going to say, somebody had to lose that record. You can't draw on first tower.
Unless no one takes a tower for the entirety of the game.
And then someone forfeits. If you forfeit with all your towers available,
game for
I don't think
it's a null game because both teams have played perfectly.
But here comes the Ziggs, because that tower's low enough that
Satchel charge. And mid lane tower for bot lane tower is the trade they decide to go for at the end, and Millenium will take that.
It is a good trade because you can continue to push the Kassadin in. This is where this Corki, the Ziggs, has had effect on the game so far. However, Schalke at this point are in the phase of putting Kassadin in the side lane. You got the teleport, you move him out to the side lane, you just push in. Corki can't really take the trade, neither can Ziggs. So I kind of anticipate them to put Fiora up against the Kassadin, because Fiora should be able to maintain. And then if you require the Ziggs ult, you use that on the side lane just to hold.
Well, it will be the Fiora up in that lane. Selfie's deciding to roam around the jungle now as well.
Looking to
He's
get
going up towards
turret,
Lichbane as well. He's got that sheen. The Aegis finished for Lulex, Smitty J, building a Phage. And the Corefield's Warhammer, I assume he's going up towards the Black Cleaver next. And, a lot of damage coming out at the moment from Selfie, but he needs to work out a way to actually get in there because Millenium are playing incredibly passively and just taking trades where they can. Doesn't mean the 2,000 gold lead's extended for Schalke. However, Schalke do need to be cautious about, you know, late game Ziggs, late game Corki, late game Fiora.
Schalke, however, are not really under too much threat because Millenium don't have too many ways of actually forcing any kind of engage. Millenium have good ways of poking and disengaging, but actually starting the fight is another story, and that's where this 1-3-1 will end up succeeding unless Schalke make a mistake, because if you can't force a fight on the 3-man stack or can't force a fight on the Kassadin, you run out of options, and now Steel has to be careful that Selfie doesn't just jump over.
Selfie's jumping onto Northscaren, though Deadly Flourish doesn't connect. Millenium back away, but Northscaren takes half his health. Does still have his exhaust and flash up if he wants to get away. Rift Herald has returned to the Void Stress, just so that you know. Always, whenever I see that announcement, I'm like, whoa, something's happened. Like, no, it hasn't.
Yeah, it's always a little confusing.
Smitty J going in with a Dominus, Redemption used as well. Riposte comes out, Abyssal Voyage, Mimic realizes doesn't want to be there and flashes away.
There's a lot used on the top side. Schalke used that Abyssal Voyage, now they're going to try and go for that tower, but look, Steel is around. Selfie doesn't feel confident enough to take that 1v1 against Pretty. He's looking to just shove out and get side wave control. Ooh, that's a big crit.
Oh,
he got him.
Oh, he's dead. Upset takes out Steel, and now they can look perhaps to push in towards this mid lane.
Schalke have not, I may be mistaken, haven't used their TPs aggressively at all this game.
Selfie used one towards top lane to get the kill
towards top lane. You
Mimic.
are right,
yeah.
They did. One into the top lane, but now that we're over in the side lanes, they haven't yet. We, of course, will start to see that happen more.
At what point does it happen, though? Because we were talking about this 1-3-1 in picks and bans. We said, you know, Schalke can set this up, especially if they get the Kassadin rolling. Smitty J will be fine in the side lane, although Renekton does fall off as we get later on into the game. At what point do you start going, Agredit Pretty gets caught out there as well? Too easy, Schalke say, as they take out Pretty, who was overextended.
The point at which the enemy mid laner moves too far out in the lane and can't retreat from a Kassadin, and Ivan comes along just to help out on the kill.
No ward coverage at all for Millenium in that blue side jungle.
Now Selfie heads back, he's probably going to finish that Lichbane. There you go. Actually completes it at 3-0-1, and now he's going to be able to do that even faster with that Nether Blade. Just basically going to 3-shot Pretty if the same exchange happens. That was through a Hex Drinker as well.
It's what you said, though. You said Pretty can't deal with Selfie at the moment if he goes into that side lane, and even though Lulex was there, he didn't really do too much in that fight. It could have just been all Selfie all the time, getting that kill. Mountain Drake still on the cards. Neither of these teams prioritizing that dragon, although it looked a couple of times like Millenium may have been setting up for it.
May have been, but haven't been able to convert it actually into the objective. My next pondering, if that even is a word, is going to be about whether Mimic at any point in this game can deal with Selfie. I think it's possible. Like, Fiora may be able to out-trade, but Selfie's so strong.
Jumps in onto Pinoy, has to flash away though. Even through the Cursing Core, Pinoy will escape. And Selfie was getting collapsed on there by Steel. Millenium unable to get the counter kill that they would have liked. Schalke are grouped up as 4 here against a Ziggs. It's perhaps not the best idea in the world. Bouncing bomb comes out, but Pinoy caught up with the root caller. Selfie jumps away once again. Upsets low. Deadly Flourish doesn't connect. Freddy back alive now will run his way out with that package. SmittyJ trading into Mimic, and Mimic with the Ravenous Hydra now trading pretty effectively.
Yeah, knows that he can trade into SmittyJ, and we are reaching the end of where Renekton has that side lane control against Fiora. Both top towers still stand though, so nobody has tried to punish. Lulex is going to attempt to. He's going to go right into a control ward though.
It's a control ward. SmittyJ engaging with a slice and dice, keeps a ruthless predator. Mimic tried to riposte it, puts the grand challenge down, trying to trade into SmittyJ, but all of Schalke respond. And there's going to be 5 members of Schalke Nullfear in the top lane. They will look for the turret as well, and as soon as you say it, Stress, they take the tower down.
Yeah, Millenium are going to look for mid tower though as a response. Of course, keep in mind with that Ziggs, if they get it fairly low, they can take it quickly. But look at how Schalke are moving now. They don't have Abyssal Voyage. They do have the Rift Walks obviously available from Kassadin, and they're going to deny any push onto mid lane. Pretty's going to try and get damage. It's not going to result in the tower. And actually, Selfie was going to go aggressive onto Steel. But again, it's all Schalke all the time in this game. Millenium have not really been given much to go on.
And the problem for Millenium is we've only, the problem judging Millenium is we've only seen them play that one composition really in European Challenger Series. Yeah. And this isn't that composition. They don't seem to be as experienced with it as they are with others, and it just doesn't seem to be working for them.
And the other side of that is, I know we discussed that they played it in Challenge France against Gamers Origin.
What a team name.
Which still confuses me, but anyway. There is a very different level of play here. Challenge France is one of the regional leagues that plays up into the Challenger Series qualifiers. And this is a team that is looking stronger than some of the LCS teams for Schalke's sake. Maybe not as dominant in this game as we've seen, but more coordinated.
I think the thing about this game is as well, like, you don't have to win a game by 10 minutes to be a strong team in it.
Right.
You don't, like, they played very well around what they needed to play around. They've had 1 death, there's 6 kills, they're 5,000 gold up. Yes, we're 25 minutes into the game, but they're playing a Kassadin comp that just plays into the late.
That's what I was going to say. If you've won the game at 10 minutes with Kassadin, you did a real good job of snowballing. Of course, the only part that doesn't really play later into the game is this Renekton. I think everybody knows that Renekton is a champion past 20 minutes. Not the most useful, but still can trade a little against Mimic, but here's where Mimic will take over the rest of the trade.
As soon as Mimic gets the Grand Challenge down, he gets so much healing. SmittyJ is going tankier with the Titanic Hydra Black Cleaver build. Mimic still only on 1 completed item with that Ravenous Hydra, but probably going to get Black Cleaver next as well with the Fade inventory.
And that's because all they need to do is have SmittyJ go into a fight, lock someone down, and the rest of the team deal with it. He's now not so much about the
Mimic's going for this. Vital Box will just get himself away, but SmittyJ cannot trade at all in towards that Fiora now.
Can he take on Tom Kench?
He can probably take on Tom by himself, but Upset is here as well. Exhaust down, the Tongue Lick doesn't connect. Redemption, Deadly Flourish, stun, and Mimic will go down to Upset.
It was all too easy for Schalke at that point to pick off that kill. Now Selfie in the mid lane shields through most of the damage. And here comes Daisy. They want to take this. This is 2 versus 4, not the fight you want.
I think Lulex wants to take it. I don't think the rest of Schalke really wanted to take it. As soon as Pretty came down, they realized perhaps not the best idea, but they are delaying and allowing Upset to push in that bottom wave tower.
They drew 4 people in, and it looked like Millenium were thinking about Baron for a second there. Ziggs Bomb has just cleared out the bot wave, so no way that they can take the turret on this wave of minions. And welcome to playing against Ziggs, where mid tower is going to stay alive for a very, very, very long time.
Ziggs and Corki are very good at keeping towers alive. SmittyJ is going to get forced back here, but the Mounted Drake will eventually go down. 27 minutes in, Schalke will take that for 7-1 up and 6,000 gold ahead.
It's a good lead for Schalke. The only thing really stopping them from ripping this game open is the fact that they can't take mid tower. Which, obviously, once they take it, access to the jungle is increased. Their ability to create picks, to catch people out with this higher mobility Kassadin, Tom Kench comp is increased. Mimic's out on the side lane, a little too far pushed up. Now we get the answer to the question. Selfie showed for just a moment, I think.
Yeah, decides not to go for the fight. And as much as you say, you know, mid lane tower's still alive here for Millenium, 2 of the outer towers are alive for Schalke. They've only lost their mid lane tier 1. In fact, that's only the 8th tower they've lost this entire tournament. And they've taken 3 this game. I think that adds up to 58 overall. 8 for 58 is a pretty good trade in favor of Schalke.
It is only a matter of time, though, before this Kassadin snowballs so heavily that Schalke kind of just win. They'll win one fight, get a Baron, and then probably close this game out, which sounds very like pessimistic towards Millenium. But Millenium don't have ways of doing anything on the map. They don't have ways to contain the strong picks. They don't have ways to force fights. The only possibility they really have is by split pushing with Fiora or Schalke making a significant mistake around the Baron.
And Schalke have not looked like a team that will make a mistake around a Baron as well. And it's, as much as you can say, oh, you know, it feels like Schalke aren't doing anything, it feels like this game's just getting delayed and delayed and delayed, that doesn't mean that Schalke aren't playing to their game plan. Yeah, it just means they're waiting.
Watch how fast Kassadin's going to take that tower. They had to use Zig's bomb on it, so Selfie loses a lot of his health. If they get a moment where Kassadin can push up, they can take that tower very quickly. But you can see Schalke clearing away the vision control, pushing all 3 lanes out as best as they can. Pinoy doesn't have his ult to clear mid lane now, so he does have to be careful. If he dies, if Pinoy dies, they will lose mid tower in an instant.
That they will. The curtain call opens up. Schalke looking for the kill on Noskera, and Smitty J is right there. He'll take that one. Mimic caught out as well as Smitty continues in with the aggression. Blast cone popped by Selfie himself, but Pinoy now caught out. Upset jumps in, gets the kill onto Pinoy. Pretty in steel, trying to defend the tower. Schalke might just turn towards the Baron.
Instant turn towards Baron. Redemption comes out. This is what Schalke they've been doing.
Selfie onto steel, Riftwalk in. Selfie's on a rampage, Schalke on a rampage as well, and Pretty doesn't realize he cannot kill the Kassadin.
Selfie is on fire this game. Schalke, they've been doing the Baron this entire time. Steel is still dead. No way of him stopping it. Schalke look like they want to get the kill.
4-0-3 on your mid laner, 4-0-3 on your AD carry. You've got a Baron, you're 11 kills to 1 up, you're 9,000 gold in the lead. This is Schalke's game for the taking.
And it's clean setups and execution and decision making, which is why so many people expect Schalke to relegate one of the bottom LCS teams this split. And when you look at how crisp their play is compared right now to what we've seen Origin do recently, there is no surprise why that is the rhetoric going through the European community right now. Look at this setup. Instantly punishing on Noskera. Smitty J follows it up with a kill onto Mimic, and as soon as they start seeing Pinoy come through, Root goes down from upset. Daisy's in the fight. They get the kill onto Pinoy and just turn, instantly turn. There is no second guessing that they're turning for Baron there. Selfie knows he can hold them off 1 versus 2, and it's an easy continuation of a clean, crisp play.
I think the Abyssal Voyage continuation is what makes this for me, because the coordination you have to have as a team to get a max range Deadly Flourish from an Abyssal Voyage from Baron Pit to get the kill onto someone is incredible.
Schalke, we talked about, would it be the first place curse that Millenium had inflicted upon them? Well, it doesn't look like it, because Schalke are setting sights on a win here.
Curtain call comes down once again. Noskera gets swiped off the face of Summoner's Rift. Selfie jumping in onto Mimic. He's unstoppable. Schalke are unbeatable, and they're going to take the inhibitor tower. They'll go up towards the top lane as well. They've got waves pushing everywhere because this is Schalke, and they're looking for their second inhibitor.
It's been a long time since Vander died, and in this game, he's got the license to kill. 007 on the board. It's going to be a win for Schalke.
Yeah, Nexus Tower is the target after Pretty goes down as well. A 32-minute ace, and Schalke will take the first game in this series versus Millenium. Great play by Schalke once again. Took their time about it this time, but ended the game 16,000 gold in the lead. Still only losing 1 tower And that's only 8 towers across the entire split.
It's becoming more and more difficult to cast games with Schalke in the sense that I really want to be optimistic that a team can challenge them. And, you know, we saw potentially Smitty J being contained. Later we went against, you know, Mimic in the top lane, and maybe it was enough. And with the Ziggs tower pushing potential. But Schalke, just their plays that they're making are so much cleaner than all 5 other teams in Challenger Series. And no team looks like they can actually consistently shut Schalke behind. We saw PSG try. They got a great lead.
PSG did really well.
But then they made a mistake.
Yeah.
And teams are making mistakes against Schalke, and Schalke go, okay, thanks for that mistake, we've won the game.
I think part of it is the way that Schalke make decisions as well. I was talking with Veteran, their analyst, and he was saying, we don't have a dedicated shot caller late game. Most of the game, we don't have a dedicated shot caller. It's consensus decision-making. It's everyone understanding. They've been in that situation. I bet so many times they've had 3 kills and be like, do we turn for Baron? And everyone knows, because of how many times they've done it, exactly what to do in that moment. And
that's actually an evolution that we've seen in the last couple of years of the LCS, which Unicorns of Love were one of the first teams in Europe specifically to be like, oh, we have diplomatic shot calling where everybody's voice is heard. Other teams were still back on like, oh no, we have one shot caller as a primary and then a secondary shot caller.
Fnatic is still very much like that.
Right, and we've seen teams that are doing that kind of be behind the curve on a lot of how plays are made, which you'd think would be a weird thing where if you had one strong voice, it would kind of unite the team. But Schalke, they're very crisp, very clean. They know what they're doing. They're on top of every single set of plays, and like it's gonna sound like bias, but when they're that clean, Schalke look unbeatable in Challenger Series right now.
Well, I'll give you some of the stats as to how clean they are. I've mentioned it a couple of times. They've only lost 8 turrets throughout the entirety of the EU Challenger Series split. They have taken down 64. They've not lost a Baron. They have taken 7. They've lost 2 dragons and taken 14. That's pretty darn clean play, in my opinion. But while the players prepare for picks and bans for Game 2, we're going to take a quick break. We'll see you when we return in 210 seconds. Fighted away by Lulex, gets the root caller down as well, but here comes Pretty. Off towards the side, flash away by Lulex, but he's still going for it. Exhaust down onto the Ivan. One more auto is enough. Lulex caught out. Redemption comes down, trying to heal himself up. Has the blast going there. Steel caught out by Selfie. Has the flash. Daisy looking for the knock-up. Steel trying to avoid a sold around. Mega Inferno Bomb comes down, but it's not enough as they take out Steel. But he's going to continue to chase in. But here's the Abyssal Voyage. Vander onto Pretty. Smitty J gets the stun. Selfie gets the kill. 2-0-1 on the cast.
Oh, that's a big crit.
Oh, he's dead. That they will. The curtain call opens up. Schalke looking for the kill on Noskeren. Smitty J is right there. He'll take that one. Mimic caught out as well as Smitty continues in with the aggression. Blast cone popped by Selfie himself. But Pinoy now caught out. Upset jumps in, gets the kill onto Pinoy. Curtain call comes down once again. Noskeren gets swiped off the face of Summoner's Rift. Selfie jumping in onto Mimic. He's unstoppable. Schalke are unbeatable, and they're going to take the inhibitor tower. They'll go up towards the top lane as well. They've got waves pushing everywhere because this is Schalke. Fighted away by Lulex, gets the root caller down.